club-swinging brutes, grunting, witless, simpletons. For the better part of a century, Hollywood has been selling us the same tired, brutish cartoon, and we've been dutifully buying popcorn to watch it. But if you peel back the thick layers of mammoth hype and tired jokes, you'll meet people who were anything but simple. These were people who could out-hike, outrun, and outplan most of us. They could run a food prep line for dozens of people with absolutely zero waste, and still find the time and energy to roast jokes and share stories around a crackling fire. Are you ready to witness the real Tuesday grind, 30,000 years ago? Right. Let's clear the air before we begin. Your average human of the Upper Paleolithic era wasn't some hunched, half-evolved ape. Picture instead, a person with the endurance of an Olympic marathon runner, a mental GPS of every landmark in their home valley, and a daily schedule more demanding and packed than yours could ever be. Today, we're going to be tailing Neela. Yes, she has a name and a personality. From the moment the sun rises until the last ember of the fire glows at night, there will be no computer-generated mythical beasts, no overly dramatic narrator, just a straightforward account of what the dirt, bones, and surviving artifacts actually tell us about her world. Neela's eyes snap open, not to an alarm, but to a subtle shift in the light filtering into the shallow limestone cave in what we now call southern France. Outside, the air is a brisk and biting 3 degrees Celsius. Inside, however, it's a surprisingly cozy 18 degrees Celsius, a small miracle made possible by the precious coals buried carefully under a blanket of gray ash. She isn't on a cold stone floor, but a meticulously constructed mattress of woven reeds and sedges, topped with a supple deer hide. Woven into the bedding are smart little herbs that keep fleas and other pests at bay. The air smells of pine, old smoke, and the lingering, rich scent of yesterday's aurochs stew, the authentic prehistoric version of waking up to fresh brewed coffee and bacon. There is no lazy stretch, and certainly no snooze button. The first order of business is survival. She presses a hand to the back of her neck, checking for the heat of a fever. Good in a tight-knit band of 25 people, a single contagious illness could spell disaster for everyone. She rises, rolls her shoulders to work out the stiffness, and moves immediately to the single most important piece of technology her people possess: the fire. The largest log from last night is just smoldering, a faint wisp of smoke curling from its core. Her cousin is already crouched beside it, gently coaxing the embers back to life. He feeds it a pinch of tinder-dry lichen, then a thin sliver of juniper wood, and finally, thicker pieces of fir. With a soft whoosh, a brilliant flame blossoms. This single, unbroken line of embers has been kept alive for 3 consecutive winters. Losing it would mean a grueling 3-hour workout with a bow drill to create a new one, or the awkward, potentially dangerous task of begging for fire from the next band over. A favor that would surely cost them some of their precious obsidian. Fire is their Wi-Fi, their central heating, their kitchen stove, and their group chat, all rolled into one. With the day's first crisis averted, Neela tears a tough strip of dried horse meat with her teeth. It's 230 calories of pure fuel, protein, fat, game on. Breakfast isn't a lifestyle moment to be staged for Instagram. It's the essential energy required to begin the day's work. In a corner of the cave, she flips open a worn hide bundle, her personal toolkit. Inside, every item is a testament to skill and necessity. A 2.1-meter spruce spear, perfectly balanced, with a flint head so wickedly sharp it can shave the hair from her arm. A fire-hardened throwing stick, also known as an otlotl, a force multiplier that turns a simple spear into a lethal projectile. A delicate bone needle, meticulously carved and polished, threaded with a tough strand of animal sinew. A fist-sized leather pouch containing a cake of powdered red ochre, a substance that is half war paint, half ritual adornment, and half practical insect repellent. Every single piece is signed. In a way, the spear point was fashioned using the Lavala technique, striking a single large convex flake to create a maximum cutting edge with minimal effort. If you were to look at it under a microscope today, you might still see the faint whirl of Neela's fingerprint, pressed into the resin, her personal maker's mark, a skill she began learning at the age of 6. The small band divides for the day's labor. The children, elders, and nursing mothers head to the sunnier uphill slopes to forage for edible bulbs and nutrient-rich roots. Neela and a team of 4 other hunters, 2 women, 2 men, move like ghosts down into the valley. There's no chatter, no wasted words. They communicate through practiced bird calls and the soft, rhythmic crunch of frost under their fur-lined moccasins. By 7:40 a.m., they reach a meadow fringed with spruce trees. The ground is a storyboard of recent activity. Tracks of horse, steppe bison, and a lone red deer are everywhere. Neela crouches low, poking at a pile of deer scat. It's still warm. She flashes a quick sideways V with 2 fingers to the hunter nearest her. A silent, clear command. Move downwind. They spread out, forming a wide 50-meter crescent to corner their prey. Neela finds her position between 2 large boulders, slots the butt of her spear into the atlatl's notch, feeling the familiar weight and leverage. Her heart ticks at a steady, controlled 120 beats per minute. At 8:02 a.m., the red deer steps into the prepared lane. Neela launches the spear. There is a dull thwack as the point finds its mark, a startled snort from the animal, and then the frantic drum of hooves on frozen ground. The team doesn't sprint after it. They begin a measured, energy-efficient jog, tracking the bright splashes of blood against the snow. 10 minutes later, they find the animal where it has folded, 80 meters on. The total calories burned by the hunting party, roughly 350. The caloric haul from this single kill, a staggering 25,000 calories in meat, marrow, fat, hide, sinew, and bone. That's a return on investment that a Wall Street banker would kill for. They're on the snow. With the deer's body still steaming in the cold air, they nap fresh tools. For sharp blows, turn a useless flint nodule into a concave scraper that peels back the thick hide like it's butter. They work with practiced efficiency, quartering the deer and loading the heavy haunches onto small sleds made of rawhide. The nutrient-dense organs ride on top of the load. These will be eaten first, before flies can land and lay their eggs. They rub crushed juniper leaves onto the exposed meat, another deterrent for insects. It's a 4-kilometer trek uphill back to the camp. The hunters rotate who carries the heavy loads every 500 meters. Now, and only now, do they talk about who is courting whom, about whether the Caveman tracks seen last week were really that big, and about who gets stuck with the first night watch. As they approach, 3 quick puffs of smoke from the camp signal back. The ridge party of foragers saw their success from afar. The cave erupts in low-key appreciative cheers. Neela's mother gives her a quick, proud squeeze on the arm, and then it's straight to business. The entire community mobilizes. Meat is sliced into thumb-thick strips and hung on drying racks inside the cave. Children, buzzing around like caffeinated squirrels, offer up special treats they've gathered. Pine cones stuffed with ants, a crunchy, protein-packed trail mix. There is no grunting, no chaos, just the quiet, efficient hum of teamwork. One elder sits patiently, cracking open horse bones to get at the buttery marrow. A group of teenagers works on tanning hides, using a thick, pungent slurry made of animal brains and water. The youngest children are given the task of sorting chunks of ochre by color, preparing the pigments for tonight's session of face painting and storytelling. Finally, Neela gets to sit, but to be idle is to be wasteful, and waste is death. She pulls out the ona bone of a goose, splits it cleanly with a sharp stone burin, and begins to carve a fresh needle. Each stroke is precise and deliberate. Make it too thin and it will snap under pressure. Make it too thick and it won't thread the sinew. All around her, the air buzzes with productive activity. Microblades are being struck for new arrow points, grass mats for bedding are being woven, and quiet gossip is exchanged about the Eastern Band, who might be willing to trade some of their high-quality obsidian for a supply of ochre. This is prehistoric logistics, diplomacy, and resource management. LinkedIn would simply implode. Sunset bleeds a brilliant orange and purple across the distant ridge. The cave, lit from within, glows like a lantern. Fat sizzles and spits on hot stones placed in the fire, and the smell alone could revive the half-dead. Children squabble playfully over pieces of grilled deer tongue, a prized delicacy, while the adults make sure to devour the liver, nature's most potent multivitamin. With bellies full, the stories take over. Neela's uncle retells the morning's hunt, his voice rising and falling, expertly turning the deer into a mythical beast of cunning and strength. The kids howl with laughter and feigned fear. An elder traces a finger along the cave wall, touching a horse that was drawn last week in charcoal and ochre, its form still vivid and alive in the flickering light. She begins to hum a simple 3-note tune, and soon others join in, their palms beating a steady rhythm on their thighs. This is the first drum circle, the first concert, the first shared heartbeat of a community bound by work, family, and art. The fire dies down, and the coals settle into a sea of red galaxies against the darkness. 2 teenagers take up the first watch, their spears resting across their laps as their eyes scan the moonlit landscape for any sign of movement. Inside, Neela tucks a heavy hide around her shoulders, curling up on her soft reed mattress. Her last thoughts before drifting into sleep are practical. She needs to swap jokes with the Eastern traders tomorrow if they appear. Maybe retouch the shaft of her spear, and definitely check the snare line by the creek. Then, she dreams of next Tuesday, the same essential grind, just with different weather. From that first fragile spark of fire at dawn to the final story, whispered in the dark, Neela's day was an intensive masterclass in applied physics, organic chemistry, project management, and even stand-up comedy. She and her people didn't just survive their environment, they optimized it, they thrived. So the next time you hear someone crack a lazy caveman joke, remind them of Neela. She would probably have your fancy butane lighter working before you could find the flint, could plan a grocery list that feeds 20 people without a single scrap of waste, and would still somehow beat you to the punchline. A full 30,000 years ahead of the curve.